One of the least understood aspects of successful probate business for attorneys and estates is a commercial bank, because many times accounts have special handling as far as deposits getting opened, and if they're blocked accounts, in particular for attorneys, if they're going to be on the account as well. One of my longtime friends, a company I literally know from the day they opened the bank, what was 20-something years ago, David Kohn, David is a vice president, some mucky muck with American Business Bank in LA. David, what's up, man?
How are you, Billy?
I'm doing better to talk to you. So this goes from just having some fun and talking about swimming to actually doing business. So real quick though, American Business Bank, you guys went from a small bank to you guys are like a regional player now. What's your role there with the company?
I'm the regional vice president in the downtown LA office.
Excuse me, sorry.
Team of 11 people here. And I also have the Long Beach office reporting to me as well. So it's been a lot of fun the last 6 years.
And there's a company, you guys also have an Orange County office that you're not personally responsible for, but it's part of your network as far as, and you have one in Cucamonga or out in Ontario too, right?
We have 2 in Orange County. We have 2 in the Inland Empire, 1 out in the Valley, 1 in the South Bay, and the one I just discussed in Long Beach.
Yeah. So you're a regional bank. And, you know, the thing that I started in the business in the mortgage industry, where you guys didn't do mortgages to your clients, or if you did, you didn't get the service you want. And what I knew was when customers told me they were at another bank and had problems, I'd say, you're not with American Business Bank because you would never have that problem if David was banking. You guys are very high touch. How do you describe it? I describe it as very high touch. You know him. If you have a problem, he solves it. How do you describe the relationship?
I mean, it's simple. We're just a boutique business bank. So, you know, our clients are doing on the low end, probably 3 million, on the low end, upper end, probably 200 million. You know, 80% of our clients are between 10 and, $80 million in revenue. And, for 25 years, we've just stuck to that niche. So I always joke with people, after 25 years, we've gone through all the mistakes we can make, so we know what not to do and we stick to our knitting. So we're not a good bank for the Walt Disney Company. They're too big. And we're not a good bank for, the local flower shop on the corner. They're too small, but a very important business, nonetheless. We just stick to our knitting, and after a period of time, we get really good at it. That's pretty much it.
And what I found is you guys seem to have a collection of very niche businesses. I didn't know there'd be a whole business of that niche, but they have manufacturing or they have distribution or something in special needs. And you guys have figured out how to help them solve their particular problem.
Yes, that's correct. So our clients are manufacturers, wholesalers, service companies. We happen to handle a lot of law firms, an FYI, right. But it can be any type of service company, contractors. The stuff that we don't do well, just an FYI, again, I just alluded to it. We're not really good at retail. So somebody owns 50 gas stations, they need cash and a lot of branches on every corner. So we're not good at that. And we don't do the stuff that Silicon Valley Bank does, which is venture capital backed or high tech companies. That we let other banks do that.
So 2 things I learned as I got into probate business full ways years ago. Number one, I realized you guys have a unique relationship with one of the biggest vendors in the business, Bond Services. They're right. Client of yours.
Yes, that's correct.
And so as a result of that, virtually every attorney is exposed somewhat to your business. And the second part I realized was I would be in court confirmation sales, which has a unique need for joint control accounts and or Cedars accounts or that equivalent. And I noticed that disproportionate, I thought, to the banking in LA, your guys' name kept popping up to the point where I called you one day and said, what the heck, David, you guys seem to be doing a lot of these kind of deals. Should we be doing business together? Tell me about your bank's involvement in the attorneys as it goes to joint accounts and also as far as Cedars or the equivalent.
Well, we've been doing these accounts since 2001. And so we understand joint control accounts and the fact that you've got 2 signers required on every check. And we have a system here where we look at those checks to make sure there's 2 signers. And if there's not, we don't put the checks through, and we make sure that, in certain cases where the account might be court blocked, that means there's nothing's going to hit the account. We make sure they're blocked. So we've had a really strong niche with this for 22 years. And, it takes a little bit more hands-on service. But like I told you before, I'm not doing a little bit of everything like a Chase. I just stick to my knitting, and we have a staff here that's dedicated to looking at those checks. So we happen to be very good at those joint control accounts and getting them open quickly, and then making sure that only the right items pass through there. But we handle a lot of stuff besides that.
Let's talk about that a little deeper, because that's where I have a chance maybe to help and introduce you to my clients. I have attorneys who have clients who might not qualify for full authority in probate, but limited because of the bonding. They can't get a bond, but they can get a bond if they use a joint account.
Right.
And the attorneys are rightfully concerned, whoa, about what am I setting up for, my responsibilities and such. So they're rightfully concerned that that be a risk they're taking on. And you guys do a couple things to mitigate that. One's hands-on checking the checks. Another one is you don't have branches in every corner, which makes fraud a little harder to get done, right?
Yeah, it's a really good point. So we only have 8 regional offices. All our offices are on the 2nd floor or above. You never see us on the bottom floor of any building. And really the only place of those 8 regional offices you can go in and cash a check is my office, headquartered in downtown LA. So it makes it a little bit easier to keep an eye on what's passing through accounts, because if somebody wants to come in and go cash a check that requires 2 signers on it, they have to come to downtown LA. And again, my office, the branch people down there make sure that those checks have 2 signers on there if they're going to go cash it, and they verify there's 2 signers. And then a lot of times they'll even call me to double check, or I can call the attorney and say, hey, I see so-and-so's here. They're here to cash a check. Just want to verify this, $5,000 check is good to pass through the account.
The other aspect that's difficult for attorneys, I think you guys solve, and the reason why you have some very loyal customers is the opening the account. I know that
That's right.
You have a couple of competitors that do them, and their branch office happens to be in the right office building. Well, that's convenient. But unless you're right there, and even there, that means you have to go to the branch and deal with all that. Talk about a little bit of what's it like to open an account for an estate for an attorney, especially if they're doing these regularly. They don't have an hour to sit around with signature cards and all that kind of processing. What's that look like with you guys as far as opening new accounts?
Well, we're really efficient. So you got to keep in mind, I kind of calculated in my head this morning, we probably opened somewhere between 4,000 and 5,000 of probate accounts, whether they're joint control or not, accounts over the last 22 years. So what we do over here is that we do everything via DocuSign. We collect the information via email. Attorney emails the information over to us. They can use secure links to make sure the information is kept confidential. And then when the signing of the documents are required, the signing of the signature cards is required. We don't make them come in the branch. We just do everything via DocuSign. So everybody can sign quickly, effectively, and boom, we get the accounts open quickly and then move forward.
And then where I help out is because you guys limit the checks and make it hard to get to sign checks from fraudulent point of view. The attorney might say, well, I have a lot of checks, to fixing up the house or expenses. If it's related to the real estate, I advance those funds separate so that the client doesn't need to do checks. We can just get paid back when we close escrow. And the idea is to limit the work of the attorney to the attorney work rather than make the attorney into a banker or a clerk in your bank or a runner for your bank, which are good jobs, I guess, if that's your job, but that's not the one the attorneys typically want.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Now, separate from the probate business, you guys also bank law firms as businesses, meaning you have a firm that has money comes in and they have payroll or they have normal accounts receivable coming in, credit needs and things like that. Talk a little bit about what kind of law firm makes a good prospective client for American Business Bank from a banking point of view.
That's a good point. So again, we start usually with like revenue size. So again, a law firm, I'll go below this in certain cases, but typically a law firm that's about 3 million in revenue.
Right.
Again, all the way up to 50, 75, 80 million dollars is, again, 200 million we can do. And then what we do is look, rightfully so, attorneys are all about time, right? If they have to spend a lot of time in their banking, they're not billing. So our niche is that, particularly with law firms, we get back to people really quickly. So
right.
just getting the accounts open, we do quickly and effectively. Approving credit facilities, if we can do it, we tell them quickly. If I can't do it for whatever reason, or it has to be slightly different, I tell them quickly. And that's why lawyers seem to appreciate working with us, because like them, I'm also all about time. I don't want to waste anybody's time. So we just don't waste their time. And then we have dedicated people who just are assigned into their account. You know, they're not seeing a lot of officer turnover if they bank with us.
And I also think for your clients, you know, I as a real estate broker, I get, you know, I've sold industrial properties, commercial properties, and you know, you talk to a lender and they promise you the world, and it takes forever, and they take your blood and your DNA. And on the flip side, I know when I was a lender working with you and your customers, when you guys tell a customer you're going to finance a building, you finance the building. Like, you know, you're going to do it. It's not, it could go through a lot of gyrations, and who knows what happens behind closed doors between you and Leon and the board and all that. But at the end of the day, once you guys say you're financing it, it happens, right?
Yeah, there's a difference between us and your typical bank, particularly the big banks. Like, we issue what's called a proposal or a commitment letter. So if you were you're a prospective client and you're looking to buy your real estate for your business, we underwrite you first. We approve you. It's all done. The credit is approved. Then I issue like a proposal and a commitment letter. And once you sign that, the only contingencies really is just getting the appraisal. And typically we get a phase 1 environmental. And assuming those are fine, we're funding the loan. Where like a major bank, the difference is that they're going to issue what's called a letter of intent. And it's going to tell you, if you get approved, this is what I'll do. So particularly on a purchase, it's really important to know that your bank's already really approved you from a credit standpoint versus a letter of intent, which is like, I haven't finished approving you. Let's go order the appraisal in the phase 1. And if I can get you approved, this is what's going to happen. But then you're still running the risk of getting it approved. And then again, you know, typically at a major institution, it's slower, right? You may have a quick escrow, 45 days, 60 days. You know, I love quick escrows because that's my forte. Versus, you know, somebody else who needs a quick escrow. They're like, oh my gosh, how can I get this big Titanic to turn and get this thing done quickly? I have no problem with quick escrows. Actually, you know, I would prefer it just from a marketing standpoint because I know I can execute on it.
You know, I had a client, it was a probate case, contested, ugly attorneys. And I like that business. It was difficult for the clients. And the client was going to buy the building. He was a part heir in and wanted to buy the whole thing. And he tells me, and this is an oddball property. It's partially retail, partially wholesale, partially, you know, trade for, it was a fish market, and big piece of property. And I'm sure complicated. There's some cash in the business, so it makes complicated the banking. And the customer's telling me he's going to have his bank do the financing. I'm like, oh my God, he's going to have some guy from B of A call me or Wells Fargo. I'm never going to get paid. I'm going to have to call the attorney and explain why it's not closing. I said, well, who is the bank? I'm like holding on for dear life. And he says, American Business Bank. And I'll tell you, it wasn't, I know a lot of you guys at the bank. I know a good chunk of your executives. I didn't recognize the name, but here's what I knew. My client's going to get the property and I'm getting paid and my attorney's going to be happy. Right. When they said that, I was like, because you guys bank that. I said, really? You bank with him? Oh yeah, they handle all of our financing and our lines of credit and our deposits. And like, we're good. We're good. In fact, he bought a second property out in Riverside afterwards as well, the same customer, because you guys, when you guys do it, you do it. And if you don't, and I've had you guys tell me, Bill, we're just not going to bank that guy. Like, and you're frustrated like any other salesman. But you're upfront, like we're not going to do it. And it's like, got it. You're not going to do it. Like, thank you. Because any other bank is going to be months before I'm going to find out.
Right. I mean, you know, our reputation, just like your reputation and you know, attorneys' reputations are everything. So I'd rather, you know, tell somebody quickly and the reason why I can't do something than string them along. And then now all of a sudden they've been depending on me and I can't come through for them. That's not going to be good for my reputation or obviously for the client.
So look, I know I pick up the phone, call you. We've known each other for a long time before you're at before American Business Bank was a bank, before my daughter was born, and before your bank was born. You have been doing business.
Born too. Yeah, we go back a long way.
We go back a long ways, and yet you guys have consistently done the same thing, the same way, the same fundamentals. I'm sure there's a lot more technology and tools, but it's the same basic business it was 25 or 28 or 30 years ago, whatever that was. If somebody wanted to talk to you about either bringing their probate legal business to you, blocked accounts and such, and client estate accounts, and or their own business banking, what's the next step for them?
I mean, they contact me directly. I mean, they can contact me, email me, whatever it might be. That really is the next step. And we'll typically talk over the phone for 5 or 10 minutes. I'll sort of just make sure it's a good fit for us and vice versa. And then I'm a big person that, I'll come out and see them and kind of walk through their business. And it might be they need banking for their law firm, or hey, they're not interested in moving their law firm, but they're interested in starting to open up, joint control, and then just regular, estate accounts that don't require joint control accounts with me. I'm happy to bring myself out there, and I have a very good team here to introduce them to several people out here at the same time.
And you guys are constantly going out to client account. And even when you have established relationships, so they need new equipment, or you guys are out there. And it's one thing I have to say, I know all the time that you and your company culture is, you're not getting much business in your corporate headquarters. You're getting your business out in the field, meeting with clients. So
that's correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, good. Look, David, I appreciate. I'll put out your contact info, your email and phone number down below. Of course, any attorney on the phone, you want to open estate accounts for your clients, probate, joint control accounts, want to talk about your business, contact Dave Kohn. I'll have the info below, or contact me. As always, David, thank you so much for your time today. I really enjoyed it.
All right. Thanks, Bill. See ya. Have a great weekend.